30. Welcome to the third talk of our first series of the new year, How to Crush Your 2020 Goals. Today's talk is none other than nutrition goals, brought to you by Christine Francis without an E. Sorry for my misspelling on the email, please forgive me. But dietitian, for those of you who emailed me, that was spelt correctly. It's a T, not a C. Anyways, without further ado, I'll pass on the mic to Christine, who's a registered dietitian, and the other acronym she'll explain to us in a second. And just again, for those of you who haven't attended since last year, we did push the crew a little bit later on in the evening, so we're starting at 8 o'clock with snacks, and then starting the talk precisely at 8:30. We're just trialing it out for the series, seeing if it works best for people's work and life schedule. So yeah, come at 8.
I didn't know that. Hello, good evening, everyone. So my name is Christine. As Christine already said, I am a registered dietitian, so we'll get into more about what that is coming up. But I did want to just start around by having everyone say their name. I just want to get to know who everybody is. Your favorite food. And the third question is something that you have heard about dietitians, if you've heard of one. And if you haven't, just something about nutrition that you've heard about. Okay? So I'm Christine. My favorite food, I guess I'll start. No, you start.
Okay. Hi, I'm Verena. My favorite food, I don't know how to say in English, but mahshi ورق عنب. And what have I heard about nutrition? Not really. Yeah, this is all new to me. Yeah.
I'm Veronica. My favorite food is chocolate, and this is new to me as well.
Hi, my name is Christina. My favorite food group is cheese. And I know dietitians are brilliant.
I'm Steve. My favorite food is pad thai, and what's the last one? Heard a lot of diets don't work.
Hi, I'm Ramesh. I like burgers, and I know portion size matters.
My name's Amira, and I like the sugar family of foods. And my question to you for later would be about food combining.
Hi, my name is Simon, and my favorite food is seafood. All kinds of seafood. Oh, nutrition fact? I don't know. Like,
Hi, everyone. My name is Monica. Favorite food is any kind of pizza. Something I know about nutrition. I know I'm friends with her, so I'm cheating a little bit. But just everything in, portion control, I guess. Everything in moderation.
Hi, my name is John. Favorite food has to be chicken. And the one thing that I know in the nutrition hour just actually learned, really the health benefits of intermittent fasting. So.
Hi, I'm Monica. I'd say my favorite food is probably s'mores. And something about nutrition. Oh, I've heard a lot of mixed things about eating late. So I have some questions about that.
Hi, my name is Shazia. My favorite food is probably tom yum soup. And something I'd want to know is definitely something more about like fasting and the different kind of fats that are out there, and more knowledge about their benefits and pros and cons.
Hi, Marianne. I can't just pick one, so for today it's mangoes. And I think I'm interested in the difference between a dietitian and a nutritionist.
Hi, I'm Anne, and my favorite food is, this is weird, but it's basturma. And I've heard a lot about like the high glycemic index, low glycemic index. You should watch out for that when consuming your food.
Hi, my name is Mark. I'm a burger guy. And I would say what's interesting to learn about nutrition is like the different food groups that help you concentrate or induce sleep and things like that.
I am Gina, and my favorite type of food is any kind of fish. And then this is all new to me.
Hi, my name is Grace, and my favorite food is all food. All food. I love food. And my nutritious facts, I'm supposed to know like what's good for me and what's not. Sorry? So I shouldn't be eating that.
Hi, my name is Peter. My favorite food is sushi and sashimi, and I'm just here to learn about nutrition today.
My name is Susie. I love all kind of cheese, and I'm here to learn about nutrition's fact.
Hi, my name is Gamal. My favorite food, everything but meat and seafood. And actually, I would like to know the difference between diet and nutrition, and also if meat diet is good or not.
I think someone. So just your name, your food, and something.
My name is Tony, and favorite food is Italian. Surprise me.
Okay, so my favorite food, I always like struggle with this question because I can't really pick one. I like salty foods. So a lot of people have like a sweet tooth, I have a salty tooth. Let's just get started. So this is what we're going to talk about today. So we kind of covered a little bit. So I'll go into some just information about my education, what I do for my career now, just to give you more of a background information. We'll talk about the difference between a registered dietitian and a nutritionist. So it came up quite a few times. We'll touch on Canada's food guide. I know it was briefly talked by Sandra last week. So we'll just touch on it a little bit more this time. We'll talk about how to read a nutrition facts label. We'll talk about the fad diets, so those were also brought up. Some tips for eating out. I'm going to talk about my approach and how I like to eat, so it's called the 80-20 approach. And then we'll talk about the 2020 vision, and then I'll close up with some of my remarks and just my philosophy in my practice as well. Sorry? $80-20, we'll get there. Okay, so first I started out, when I was in high school, I took a course called exercise science, and I thought it was like the best course in the world. I did so well at it. So I said, okay, what can I do going into university? I really didn't know what I wanted to do at this point. So I heard kinesiology at York University, such a highly, ooh, yeah, there you go. So I went into that, first year, I went into that. And 6 months later into the program, I was like, okay, this is not really what I want to do. I don't want to be a physio. I don't want to be a chiropractor. At the time, kinesiologists weren't even registered either. So I was like, really, what do I want to do with this degree? So after about first semester, a little bit into halfway of second semester, I dropped it. I took some supplementary courses. And then I applied to the other university that I went to, which was at Western University. So I transferred there. Sorry, this thing is a little bit slow. I did a 4-year Bachelor of Science. The specialization was in nutrition and dietetics. There's a lot of fancy words that go along with it. I did a minor in religious studies just out of my own interest. So that was the first part of my little letters beside my name, which I didn't include anyways. And then after I did that, you have to do a 1-year either rotation or like some sort of a master's program that's combined with rotations. So I actually did mine through Western University again. This time I got a diploma in dietetic education and practical training. So that answers what all those other letters were. So that was a 1-year thing. So we did a bunch of rotations, which I'll touch on coming up. So we did some placements in research. I did some nutrition care in a hospital. We did diabetes in a diabetes clinic. We did some community work. We did some public health, which I was not a fan of. So if you're working in public health, I'm sorry. So that was pretty much it. So it was a 1-year long thing. We rotated from a bunch of different things. It's kind of similar to when doctors do like their residencies, so very similar. And then after that, to become a dietitian, you have to write a national exam, and that was called the Canadian Dietetic Registration Exam. It's only held twice a year. So that's what you need in order to get your license to practice as a dietitian. In the meantime, from when you graduate and to when you write the exam, you're able to get some sort of a temporary license to work, but you do need to pass this exam and get a permanent or full license to continue. And then I became a registered dietitian with the College of Dietitians of Ontario. And there was a GIF that I tried to include, but it doesn't work on here. But anyways, I was like, oh, okay. Okay. So right now, after the time frame of when I had finished placements, when I had graduated, it was a little bit of a waiting game. So we were applying to some jobs, and it's a very competitive market. So there's a lot of, I guess I would say there's more dietitians than there are jobs. So to get one after you have just finished everything is very difficult. So I had all this free time and I was like, okay, what am I gonna do? So I was sitting at home and it was always in the back of my head to want to start like my own practice. So I had all the time to do that now. So then arose Christine the RD, and if some of you know, it's very famous with its lemon and yellow logo, hence why it was there at the beginning. So that was the initiation of that, and there you go, it's very bright. So alongside with that, so I do my private practice, which is Christine the RD, but I also work in long-term care, which is at a company called Extended Care. And a lot of people ask me, what is long-term care? Is it just retirement home? Is it just a nursing home? So it's a little bit different than retirement living, because in retirement, a lot of the residents there is what they're called. They're still able to care for themselves, and they're still able to perform a lot of the activities of daily living on their own. So they're able to get up, walk around, do their own, like brush their own teeth, feed themselves, just like little things like that that we take for granted a lot of the time. So the difference with that is in long-term care or nursing homes, as they're commonly known, is that the residents there need more one-on-one nursing care. So there's a nurse, or nurses, I should say, present in the building 24 hours a day. We work closely with doctors, with physio, with speech and language pathologists, with PSWs, with nurses. I think I've covered them all. Pharmacists. So we all work together. It's a very interdisciplinary team, and we all rely on each other to get our work done, pretty much. So a lot of the time people ask me, okay, so what do you do? So I start off by saying I review all of the menus for the home. We switch it biannually, so there's 2 menus, and there's like a 3-week menu cycle. So every week there's like a new menu, and every 3 weeks it repeats again. So I review those. I make sure that if someone has certain dietary restrictions, like they have renal disease, they have diabetes, high cholesterol, things like that, those all have to be approved and included in the menus, and they're called therapeutic modifications. Whenever a resident is admitted, we have to do some sort of a nutrition assessment on them, and we pretty much, I don't know why I keep saying we, there's only one of me in the building, so I pretty much just assess them, see if they are at low, moderate, or high nutrition risk, and I either see them on a quarterly basis if they're at high risk, and if not, then I just see them on an annual basis or as needed. I get a lot of referrals, so it has things to do with weight changes that are significant and unwanted, fluctuations in someone's appetite, their intake, change in health status. So if someone has gone to a hospital and come back, those are all things that we take into consideration. If anyone is having any chewing or swallowing difficulties, so I'll touch on that on the next slide or the next bullet. If someone is having elevated blood sugars, so hyperglycemia, or if they're having low blood sugars, so hypoglycemia, some residents need to be fed through a tube. So it's called a tube feed, and it's pretty much providing them nutrition directly into their body. In hospital, they're able to provide the nutrition directly into their veins as well. So we get really involved in that. If anyone has any skin impairments, so it's funny, I just gave myself a skin impairment today at work, and the joke was always, oh, send a referral to the dietitian. So if someone is not drinking enough, they're biochemical, so they got blood work done. It's not where we want it to be. I get involved there. They're not having bowel movements or constipated, or on the other side, they're having loose bowel movements. So they're all things that we take into consideration. So they keep me very busy at work. And as I said, dysphagia management. So some residents, they are not able to chew foods anymore. They may need some sort of a modification, whether that be their food is really minced up, really tiny, if they need like no food particles in their food at all. Some of them have swallowing difficulties, so they're not able to swallow thin fluids, like just like your water that you and I drink. So there's a lot that comes into play there, and that's where myself and the speech language pathologist would work together as well. So that was me at work last year during Nutrition Month, which is in March. You even see me? Okay. This is at work. It was during Christmas time. We were caroling for all the residents going from unit to unit. So it was during lunchtime. So when I do like the meal observations, and I would sit with them in the dining room, or I would just sit right next to them and help them with their meal as well to do the observation. And there's me in my office doing the million paperwork that I have to do all the time before I cut my hair. Okay, so highly talked about topic. So I want to let you guys tell me what the difference is first. There's a clue that I'll bring up if we're not really getting to it, but I want to make this interactive. I do not like public speaking, so I want you guys to talk to me as well. So what is the difference? If you don't say anything, I'm going to come right to you.
One has a regulatory body and the other does not.
And what is a regulatory body?
A college that can set standards for practice. Anyone can be called a nutritionist. You can't call yourself a dietitian unless you register with the College of Ontario. I don't know what it's called for you.
Okay, she pretty much got it right on. So the clue was all dietitians are nutritionists, but not all nutritionists are dietitians. So again, a nutritionist can be pretty much anyone. Monica can call herself a nutritionist. There doesn't have to be any sort of education. There's no, as Christina said, like there's no regulatory body that's regulating everything that we say. So we're pretty much accountable for everything we do and say. A nutritionist can just be, as I said, someone on the street just saying, okay, follow this, follow that. There's no really evidence behind what they're saying. There's no scientific background. So this is why it's really important to be careful with where you get your nutrition information, because a lot of people say, well, I'm a certified so-and-so, or I'm a nutrition man, whatever it is. Honestly, there's a lot of variations these days, and you just got to be really careful of where you're getting what you're hearing. So here's a little chart. I think it's hard to read, but I'll just go through it. So over here is what a dietitian needs. So it says that they have to have a bachelor's degree, go through the accredited nutrition program, which is what I did in undergrad. The supervised practice, so that was our internship rotations. Pass a really hard national exam. That was the CDRE that I talked about. And continuing, so you just have to make sure that you're still doing education going forward and just keeping up to date with the current research. In terms of a nutritionist, no education required. Anyone can call themselves that. They don't have to do an internship. There's no test required. And there is no continuing education either because nutritionist is not legally regulated, okay? Again, here it just kind of talks about the same thing. It also touches on the fact that we provide counseling on a bunch of topics like general healthy eating, diabetes, heart health, you name it. And another thing is that dietitian services are also covered through some private insurance plans, whereas nutritionists are not. Depends. So I wanted to include this part because a lot of the time, if someone finds out, oh, you're a dietitian, oh, so I shouldn't be eating this, or oh, don't judge my eating habits. Someone did it to me when I first came in. I'm like, I don't judge. So we are not the food police. So I don't care what you're eating. Enjoy what you're eating. I'm not here to say, well, you can't eat that, and you're not supposed to eat that either. It's a very highly thing that we get. We don't just menu plan. A lot of people say, okay, well, so do you just like make menus at work, or do you, can you make me a meal plan? I'm like, no, that is not what I do. So that's why I wanted to kind of give you guys a brief outline of what it is that I do at work, because we don't just make meal plans. It's more one-on-one. When I do like my private counseling, it's more of like building goals together. So just kind of figuring out what it is that you do in your current lifestyle and where it is that we can make the changes together, rather than me saying, okay, so this is your meal plan, this is what I want you to eat, this is how much I want you to eat, and this is when I want you to eat, because it's not sustainable. Okay. We are not strict eaters, so if you know me, I am not a strict eater. I eat anything and anything that I like. There's some foods that I just stay away from for my own preference, but I never say that, oh, I can't have this certain food because X, Y, Z, or it has too much carbs, or whatever the case may be. Again, this kind of goes with being the food police. I do not shame your food choices. If you want to have a brownie, please have a brownie and enjoy it, okay? And we are not glued to Canada's food guide. So the stigma is, oh, I go see a dietitian and she gives me Canada's food guide and that's about it. That's not what we do. We like to work more one-on-one together and see where we can make changes that are practical and sustainable for you. And speaking of which, here's Canada's food guide. But anyways, okay, let's just briefly talk about it. Sandra touched on it last week, but I'll just kind of go into more detail. So as we can see, it has been revamped. So the last time that Canada's food guide was out was in 2007. It is now 2020. So they made some adjustments. So on the left side, we see that half the plate is fruits and vegetables, and the two other quarters are whole grain foods and proteins. So there's no longer the breakdown of the different food groups. There's no longer the part, I guess I'll just go. So it's a guide, okay? It says it in the name. It's not something that we are like glued to. You don't have to follow it. It's just used as a guide and high level overview, okay? In this new version, they don't include the exact portion sizes anymore and the servings. And that kind of goes along with the fact of we want you guys to be able to decide how much you want to eat. And what you want to eat. I read something actually, and it was saying, well, how come it doesn't provide us with portions anymore and the servings? And how is this supposed to be guiding me? And it's kind of similar to like when you go to, I don't know, your doctor. You say, well, I have this, and the doctor narrows it down for you. So that's why this is kind of the same thing. It's a guide, and then we narrow it down for you and with you. And so the changes that they made is that they're emphasizing more of the plant-based proteins. So legumes, beans, chickpeas, tofu, there's a lot of things up there. Before it was heavily influenced by the meat industry and the milk industry. So that's why milk is no longer up there either. We're not saying not to have milk, and we're not saying not to consume meat, but we're just saying to try and focus it more on a plant-based alternative rather than having it heavily focused on the dairy and the animal products. And then before, they also included things like the sweetened milk or juice. That has been taken out as well. And now it says to make water your drink of choice, which is always what we want water to be first. And the other things are just supplementary. So the problem with this is that, for someone like myself who works in a long-term care institution, or people who work in a daycare or things like that, before the food guide kind of told us, okay, so this is how much this age group should be getting. These are the exact nutrients, these are the exact food groups, and these are what they should be aiming for. The problem is when I approve the menu for a long-term care home, it's hard for me to do that now because I don't really have exact servings or portion sizes that we can be including on those menus. So at the end of 2019, Health Canada was supposed to release a phase 2, which was for healthcare professionals and institutions, but we haven't gotten it yet, so who knows? Okay, so the food label, so the nutrition facts label that you always see on your food products have been revamped. I don't know if anyone's noticed them yet. The industry has 5 years to comply with the new food labels. So I've seen food products that have them and some of them don't even have them yet. So I just want to go through it, basically give you a general overview just to help you understand it better. So the first thing that I always look at is where it says, right at the top where it says per 250 mils or per 1 cup. So they have changed that part to begin with, just to make it more consistent along with different food items. Sometimes I would pick up like a box of crackers and it would say per 50 grams, and then the other box of crackers would say per 20 grams. And I'm like, okay, how can I compare this? Like, it wasn't easy for me to do that. So now they've kind of standardized them across food products to make us kind of comparing more easier. So that's the first part. So when you're looking at something like that, you always want to compare it to what you're eating. So it can say per 1 cup, but if you're eating like 5 cups of something, you got to multiply this. Or if you're eating half of it, like you got to take it into consideration for what you're having. Okay, so that's the first part. So comparing it to your intake. And then as you move down, so calories are more bolded now and they stand out more. I guess just to make it more obvious to you. I kind of have a problem with that because calories are not like the only thing that you should be focusing on or and looking at when you're looking at things like this. So it's important to see, okay, so it has 110 calories. Where are the calories coming from? Is it coming from a fat? Is it coming from a protein? Is it coming from a carbohydrate? So we'll go through this. And then, so the next thing is it says the daily values are updated. So before, these daily values were all based on a 2,000 calorie diet, which was not practical because a lot of us we don't always eat a 2,000 calorie diet. It's not sustainable for everybody, and it's just not what a lot of people eat. So they have updated it to include all of the new science recommendations. So for example, if we look at sugars, the recommendation, and by the way, sugars now has a % daily value, which before they didn't. The problem with this is that sugars are not broken down into added sugars and naturally occurring sugars. So someone may look at this and say, oh my gosh, 22 grams of sugar, nope, can't eat it, it's too much. So just some things to keep in mind. So if we're looking at something like the sugar, so it says 22 grams. The general dietary recommended amount for someone per day is around 100 grams from added sugars. So the 22 grams translates over to 22%, because that's a reflection of the dietary recommended amount for that one specific thing. So it's not based on a 2,000 calorie diet anymore, it's based off of the actual nutrition recommendations, which makes way more sense. So down here, before we used to have vitamin A, vitamin C, calcium and iron. So they have removed vitamin A and vitamin C because a lot of Canadians are actually getting enough vitamin A and vitamin C. And they have replaced that with Potassium. And we know potassium is really important for our blood pressure. And a lot of Canadians are not getting enough potassium. So that's why it has been replaced. And there was no milligrams before. So here it says calcium 30 milligrams. There was none over here before. So this is in line with the new dietary scientific recommendations, which is why they have now included them as opposed to before they weren't there. And this is my favorite part, is where they actually include a little footnote. So they're telling you that anything that has 5% or less is a little bit of a nutrient, whereas something that has 15% or more is a lot. So can anyone tell me what is something that you want less of for the general population on a nutrition facts table? Yes. Pardon? Sodium, yes. Okay. Anything else? Good. Good. And what is something that we want more of? Fiber. Good. Good. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Probably. Good. 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 Hey, so you guys know the gist. Oh, well, you guys should be up here, not me. So you want to always compare this to the ingredient list. So again, if we're seeing 22 grams of sugar, look at the ingredient list. What are the sources of sugar? What's included? The nice thing with the ingredient list is before there would be things that say dextrose, fructose, and it would be like all these added sources of sugar that you really don't even know, and they would be like scattered all over the ingredients label. Now they've just summed it all up and they just say sugars, and in brackets they include all of those fancy names that no one can even pronounce. So it's easier for you to just kind of pick up on what all of the values are coming from. So always compare it to the ingredients list. So for the sugar, there's a percent daily value. So this thing, okay? Before, sugar did not have that. There was no percentage. So I said that my problem with the sugars part is that a lot of the food products don't break it down for you. So they just include the total amount of sugars. So if I was to do a nutrition facts table on an apple, it would come up with having sugar. And you would think, oh, they've added sugar to this product. But really, it's just the natural sugar that's occurring within the fruit. Okay? Compare it to the ingredients list. So if it's added, it will say sugar, and it will say all the different added sources of sugar. Usually when it's natural sugars, they don't list it, or they'll just say natural in brackets. Okay? Yeah, this is a hot topic. So the general recommendation is not to exceed 100 grams of added sugars per day. Apple would be natural. Yeah, so it wouldn't count. Yeah. I'm not saying to drink pop. Oh, sorry.
So like, I feel like a lot of companies would use very few like crackers in a whole case just to have the amounts of those low, because psychologically you would just look at the amount and you wouldn't look at the one at the top that's like, oh, per two. You're like, I would have at least 50. there like a rule on how many they can?
So as I said, with the serving sizes, they're more standardized now. So I think with the crackers, they're basing it on around 15 crackers. So they may not have implemented the new labels as of yet, because that was a concern. People would say, well, I'm not having 2 crackers, I'm having 10. So they're in the process of switching them all over within the next 5 years. Let's keep this high overview. So in the end, yes, sugar is sugar is sugar, whether you're having brown sugar, table sugar, whatever it is. But it's how it affects the body. So they do get metabolized the same in the end, but with things like a natural sugar. So from an apple, there's things like fiber that is kind of preventing your blood sugar from spiking right up. So there's kind of the difference between added sugars, because then your blood sugar just spikes right up and it's like, whoa, I like this. It feels like your brain is getting some sort of a chemical, a reward, and you keep wanting more and more. That's the effects of dopamine.
So the second point says, which macronutrients are the calories primarily coming from? How do you relate the percentages of daily value or the grams to calories?
So the 3 macronutrients, for those of you who don't know, are carbohydrates, fats, and protein. So his question was, how do we convert that, I guess, over to see what is providing what? So let's take this one for an example. It's not really a good example because there's 0 grams of fat, so you want to look at fats. So you take every gram of a fat and you multiply that by 9 calories. So fats are the most calorie dense. They provide us with the most energy. And so therefore, that would be how you figure out how much fat you're getting from a certain product. So if you're getting, let's just do a quick calculation. If it says 4 grams of fat, you would multiply that by 9 and you would get 36 grams of fat from that one product. For calories and protein, whatever the percentage, or sorry, the grams are, so here it's 26 grams, you would take 26 grams and you would multiply it by 4. So that would provide you roughly 104 grams of carbohydrate from that food. So carbohydrates and protein, you multiply it by 4. Fat, you multiply it by 9. Okay, does that answer your question? Okay. Are there any other questions on the nutrition facts labels? We're all good? You guys can compare them now if I ask you? Okay. Okay, so this is kind of like the hot topic that everyone is like looking forward to. I'm gonna provide like a very high level overview. I could go into a PowerPoint presentation on every single one of these diets. Unfortunately, they're gonna take the microphone away from me. So let's just briefly talk about them. Okay, so this is from a source that we use. It's called Unlock Food, and I'm just gonna read it verbatim for what it said on their website. It said, a popular diet that usually promises weight loss. A fad diet often sounds too good to be true and does not follow healthy eating guidelines that support good health. Okay? There is no one-size-fits-all diet. I'm really sorry to tell you guys that. People are often coming to me and they're saying, okay, so what's the best diet? What can you recommend? What do I do? And I'm like, I really can't recommend anything to you because it is individual for everyone. So what works for you may not work for you, and what works for you may not work for you. And a lot of the time we get things, well, my friend was on the keto diet and it worked for them. Okay, it worked for them. Is it going to work for you? So there really is no one size fits all. Okay. Oh, another thing, there is no quick fix. There's no miracle cure. There's no, like, people think that dietitians have this like secret weight loss thing hiding in the back of their pockets. We don't. There's no like magic thing that we have. This is one that I like a lot. There's no good or bad foods. This places them as like being something that you definitely cannot eat versus something that, oh, you should be eating all the time. I like to categorize them as being either more nutritious or less nutritious. So something like, let's just use the example of an apple. I would say that's more nutritious because you're getting all the vitamins and the minerals out of it. You're getting the fiber, and you're getting all of those like natural sugars, the carbohydrates, all the things to keep you going. In contrast, if we say something like, let's take the brownie example. There's a lot of sugar in them. Yes, there is nutrients from them, so there is the carbohydrates from the sugars, good to keep you going, provide you with energy, but at the same time, they're not as nutritious as something else would give you. Okay, so that's kind of the differentiation that we like to keep in our minds. I just don't like to label foods as being something like, oh my gosh, no, can't eat that, it's horrible, can't touch it, versus something, okay, well, it's okay to have that. That's that. Supplement claims, or like I like to call them red flags, red words. If something says detoxify, purify, cleanse, and like oftentimes the supplement will have like a huge list of things that it does, and it's like, is the supplement like actually benefiting you, or do they just want you to buy it? A lot of the time that's the case, because it'll say, well, it does this, and it then does like all of these like great things, but does it really do all of those things? Can one supplement do all of those things? Oftentimes, no. So be careful for things like that. They're usually trying to sell you something rather than benefit you. Another one, detoxes, alkaline diets, a liver cleanse, what, you name it. Your body naturally does it for you. So you have your liver, your lungs, your intestines, you have all of these great things that God literally gave us to do those things for us. I've heard of like an alkaline diet. So people will say, well, I'm eating this thing because it balances my pH. If your pH wasn't balanced, you would die. Your body does it for you. So please do not go into things like this. I can't stress it enough. The keto diet. What's that? This stresses me. The keto diet. This has gained so much popularity in 2019. It cuts out a whole macronutrient group. So it cuts out carbohydrates. Do you know what that means? Oh, okay, so let me start. A lot of the time, when someone says they're doing keto, they'll say, well, you know, I'm like still having a little bit of bread, and you know, I still eat like an apple here and there, and I have a banana at night. Well, okay, so are you really doing keto, or are you doing like a lower carb? It's really hard to get your body into a state of ketosis. It's usually less than like 20 grams of carbohydrates per day, which is like equivalent to a piece of bread. So it's really hard to get to that. And at the same time, you're cutting out so many things. So you're cutting out fruits, which are a carb, by the way. A lot of people say to me, well, no, it's not. I'm doing keto. I'm having all these carbs. Well, no. But so it removes beans, it removes the legumes. Those are all part of the carbohydrate macronutrient. So how are you really doing keto with the inclusion of all of those things? And whole grains, they're so good for you. And to tell me that you're removing them, I'm like, I can't even handle this. So I have a problem with the... So my problem with this is that it like cuts out a lot of things from your diet, and anything that's cutting out something is a problem. And to go on the other side of the keto diet, people often think, okay, well, I'm on keto, I gotta eat a lot of fat. So let me have bacon, butter, this, that, and it's like, well, now you're including the saturated fats, which are not the fats that we're saying to include on a keto diet. So it makes sense that this diet was one of the bottom on the 2019 diet reviews. But a lot of people still say, well, you know, it worked for me, it worked for my neighbor down the street, so I'm gonna keep doing it. So all we can do is educate. Coconut oil is another one. So a lot of people think that this is like some sort of a superfood, and they say, well, you know, it has a lot of fats, it's good for you. They combine that with the keto diet. They say, oh, well, you know, I'm on keto, I'm gonna include the coconut oil. Let me show you something. So remember how I just said that the keto diet is really high in those saturated fats, which are not good for us. Those are really bad for our heart health, so we want to minimize those. On the other hand, we want to include fats and oils that are called polyunsaturated. So those are the heart healthy fats that we want to include. With coconut oil, it's on the very bottom. So saturated fat is the red. Coconut oil has the most saturated fat. You want to take a photo? I'll get out of the way. There you go. Now, I'm not saying not to have coconut oil. You can still include it in moderate amounts. As I say with everything, don't cut anything out. But just keep that in mind, okay? So these are the colors that we want to have primarily. These as well, but more these. So the blue and I guess the orange, whatever that is. So I like to use extra virgin olive oil. It's not, I don't think it's on there. Oh, olive oil is on there. Yeah, great choice. If you're cooking at really high temperatures, I like to use avocado oil just because it has a high smoke point, so it's able to withstand those high temperatures that you're cooking with before like burning off. Grapeseed oil, perfect as well. It's very light. You can also cook with it at high temperatures, but it is very light. So I kind of like to use it more in like a salad or something. Yeah. Okay. Oh, so people are saying that it's like it tastes great, and they're saying. Honestly, all of these diets, everyone claims it makes you lose weight and lowers your cholesterol, and I could go on and on. Okay? Okay? We good with this picture? All right. And directly from Health Canada, it says, fad diets can be restrictive and pose nutritional risks, particularly without appropriate planning for nutritional balance. So that kind of goes hand in hand with any of the diets per se. So you're excluding a certain food group, you're missing out on all of those nutrients that that food group would provide you. Okay? Yeah. So a fad diet is I said it at the beginning, it's a popular diet that promises weight loss. It's usually something that sounds, oh, it's too good to be true. So all of those things that we were kind of talking about would be considered a fad diet. Okay? It's kind of something that appears, and then after a little while, it's gone, and nobody ever hears about it again. So in summary, these overly restrictive diets, they reinforce like a distorted view and a harmful view on the foods that you're eating, and it deems them as unhealthy. So it's saying that, I keep referring back to the keto diet because it's so popular right now. So it's saying that carbohydrates are unhealthy for you. Sugars are unhealthy for you. So those are what those fad diets consist of, and they don't provide long-term support. So a lot of the time when you see those, like someone on a weight loss journey or something like that, you'll see a photo of them like right after they finish their weight loss journey, and they're like, wow, look at me, I lost all this weight, oh my gosh, I'm great, which is great, good for you, congratulations, really happy with your outcomes. But do you see anything after 5 years? Do you see that those people have maintained that weight, that they've kept it off, that they're still able to maintain the diet that they were on? I'll let you answer that. Okay, so going along with it. So this, I got a bunch of pictures off of Instagram that I thought were really funny. So people think, okay, I gotta eat like a rabbit, let me just eat some lettuce, and that's how I'm gonna lose weight, and it's great, it tastes amazing. And that's not the case. You're still able to have things like this beautiful, colorful plate. So it's not all about restriction. It's about controlling our portion sizes, just being mindful of the things that we're putting into our body. Another thing, I have to eat all the same stuff. So I got a meal plan, and I can only eat sweet potato, vegetables, and chicken. And it's okay, you can eat those things, but you can also change it up a little bit. You can have some variety in your diet. If we're eating the same things over and over again, we're getting the same nutrients over and over and over again. And it's like, well, you have so many other foods that you could get all those other nutrients from. Okay? Oh, this goes along with the, I gotta cut out all carbs because this is what works for me and works for everyone, and this is what I gotta do. It's not true. It varies by your activity level, your size, your body frame, like everything. You guys are laughing. It really varies. So to say I gotta cut out carbs completely would not be accurate, and it is healthy eating misconception number 2. I can't have any fun foods. Okay, you can have fun foods. Okay, that'll bring us to our next part soon. What doesn't work? Eating as little as possible. Like, I want you to eat. If you don't eat anything, your metabolism is not started. Your body is not burning those calories. Your body is thinking you are in starvation mode, and it's holding on to all of those calories and things that you have eaten. So you gotta fuel your body. And for the record, by the way, when people tell me, well, I don't eat carbohydrates, just so you know, the first place that carbohydrates go when you eat something are to your brain. So that is the first source of energy that your brain needs. It needs 130 grams on its own. So if everything is going to your brain first, what happens when you don't give it that? Then you're like, oh my goodness, I'm so tired, I can't function. This is another funny one. Bananas are too high in sugar. Well, bananas can prevent your blood sugar spikes because they have that fiber in them. Potatoes are too starchy. As I said, they contain potassium, which is good for your blood pressure. People say, I don't eat white foods, so no white rice, no white bread, no white, you name it. Cauliflower is a white food and has nothing to do with that. So, oranges is not spelled correctly, so just so you know. They say they're the devil, and I can't have that. Well, they do provide you with a source of energy, so really all things can be included. So, again, this is one that's funny. It's saying, so if you're on a diet, you're sipping on air, you're having a handful of veggies, and here you have a little pinch of gravel, aka rocks, or whatever that is. Whereas here, you're having a bunch of vegetables, protein, you're hydrated, you're feeling great. Okay, so I'm gonna go quickly through this. I have so much to cover, but we'll go quickly. So I want you guys to tell me now. So you are gonna order something that you don't make at home. The problem is that the portion is so big. What do you do? So you're going out to eat. Take it to go. Switch aside for a salad. Eat what you can. Take the rest home. Anyone else? Depends on what kind of food it is. Sauces on the side, dressing on the side. Good. It's hard to stop eating even when you've had enough. So you will have some popcorn lingering in front of you, and you're like, oh, I can't stop. It's so good. Switch to a healthier choice, a more nutritious choice. Okay. Stop snacking. Okay, stop snacking. Drink water. Good, nice. Okay, I'll tell you the answers. I just want to hear from you guys first. There's no really right answer, but you order a drink when you go out to eat, and it's not always water. You want to order something. You're like, I have water all the time. What do you order? Coffee. Pardon? Milk? Okay. Juice, alcohol. Okay, alcohol provides calories too. Don't forget that. Okay. It seems that no matter what kind of restaurant you go to, there is just never a meal that has enough vegetables. What do you do? Eat protein. Okay, but you want vegetables. What do you do? Order them on the side. Go home and eat your vegetables. Eat at home. Vegetables. Okay. Put them on your burger. Nice. Good. So when you do make the effort to get a salad or a vegetable, there's so much sauce and dressing on them. What do? Order them on the side. Perfect. I heard it before anyways. Okay. So these are kind of just answering what I already said. So when you go out, you can divide the meal. So what I like to do before the meal even kind of comes down, I ask them for a take-to-go box, and I put half of it in the to-go box or whatever it is I think that I won't eat, so that I already have my portion kind of set for me, and I know that I'm not going to just graze on it while I'm waiting for the other person to finish eating. Or order a smaller portion. Sometimes on menus they have like those smaller meal sizes or portion sizes. That's part of it. Or you can just share it with a friend or whoever you're with. Stop and ask yourself if you're hungry. So a lot of the time we get caught up in conversation. We're like, okay, we're just eating for the fun of it. But really just take a moment, genuinely like recognize your hunger cues. Are you still hungry or are you just eating for the fact of eating? Take breaks in between, slow down. It's not a race. No one's going to take the food away from you unless you're at a restaurant that tells you you got a 2-hour limit and then you got to speed up. But anyways, wrap it up when you've had enough to eat, to provide yourself from just sitting there and just racing. Skip the soda. So water is free, as we said. You can always ask for a lemon. You can ask for it to be sparkling. If you really do want a drink, sometimes what I like to do is just kind of like mix it half and half. So things like cranberry juice or orange juice or stuff like that, they're really concentrated. You could do half water, half the juice if that's what you want to have, and it still tastes as good. You could get a club soda, add a little lemon, lime in it, your preference. They're just tips. Share a dessert. So oftentimes desserts are so big, you can share them with a friend or whoever you're with. And if you're having things like a chocolate cake, try and pair it with something that's like less decadent. So some fruit beside it. It just kind of balances out the flavors and it doesn't feel as heavy. So increasing your vegetables. So as someone said, they increase them on their burger. So they ask for you can ask for more vegetables in your burger when you're ordering it. If you're going out for like pizza, you can, if you're having, instead of having 3-4 slices of pizza, why don't you cut it down to 2 slices and increase whatever you're having on the side with it, whether it be vegetables, salads, whatever your preference is. And if you're having like a sandwich, again, as I said, if you're at, I don't know, Subway, or if you're having a burger, try to increase the vegetables that you put on it as well. And this was a basic one. Ask for your dressing on the side if you're ordering some sort of a salad or vegetables. And then the last one is just if you have the option, instead of getting like a fried piece of chicken, ask for it to be baked or grilled. Just little things like that that makes a lot of changes and is beneficial for you. Okay, so I'm going to quickly wrap up. So this is my approach, so the 80-20 approach. So 80% of the time, I like to have whole, nutritious foods. They provide me with a lot of vitamins, minerals, nutrients, you name it. 20% of the time, I like to have those less nutritious foods. So it's not saying that, I don't like to call it a cheat meal because then that reinforces the fact that you are doing something that you're not supposed to be doing. So it's more of enjoying things. When you go out with friends, when you go to a gathering, that's the 20% of the time where you're not limiting yourself. You're enjoying those foods. You're enjoying the company that you're with, and you're embracing the effects and the outcomes that food can provide. And sometimes it's even at night when you want to have a snack. I'm just going to skip over this. This is just showing how complicated it is to lose weight versus gain weight. People just think it's calories in, calories out. And it's not that easy. There's a lot of things that come into consideration. But for the sake of time, I'm going to skip over them. and I'm gonna skip over these two. It was just showing you basic portion sizes. I like to just reinforce the principle of intuitive eating. So eating until you feel like you're 80% of the way to being full. Again, as I said, I don't like to tell people what to eat, how much to eat. These are general guidelines, so it's more of something to help you just try to figure out how much of something you should be having. A lot of times, like someone with almonds or nuts, they'll have like the whole bag, and it's like, whoa, those are really high in fats. So it's just something to be cautious of, just something to keep in your mind. If you want to have more almonds one night, have more almonds. Okay, just skipping over. So 2020, as I said, all foods fit, okay? There's, rather than eliminating all of these things, sure, yeah. She's gonna come around with something that I have prepared. I'll give you more information once it comes around. So focus on adding things back into your diet rather than eliminating them completely. Avoid those short-term fixes or those fad diets that I mentioned. Add more fiber, so eating things like whole grains, whole pasta, the brown, those are probably really big plates, but it's okay. Including more fluids, trying a meatless Monday, like just trying something to spice it up. We get bored a lot of the time, we eat the same things. Try something to make it different. So there is like an understanding of when you eat more, your stomach expands. Your stomach goes back to how it was, but over time, if you're eating larger amounts of foods, your stomach does kind of start to accustomize to that larger amount. So does that answer your question? These are just the basics. Try and have breakfast more often. Pack your lunches. It saves you money. It saves you stress in the morning of thinking, okay, what am I going to eat today? I always pack my stuff the night before. It saves all the stress. Same thing as picking my outfit the night before, which I know some of you do not do. That stresses me out. Intuitive eating. Listen to your body. If you're hungry, eat. If you're not hungry, don't eat. If you are thirsty, drink. If you're not thirsty, don't drink. Those are all things. Like we gotta listen to our body. God gave us one body, and so we gotta listen to it and provide it with what it needs. Beware of this. Okay, so this is where the marketing gimmicks come into place. So there's something called a halo effect, and so if you look at this, we have two boxes of crackers here. One of them is original, and one of them is low sodium. So you look at it and you're like, oh yeah, low sodium, great, I'm gonna have that. That's so much better for me. What you gotta remember is that a lot of the times when things claim to be low fat or low sodium or low sugar, how do you think they are going to make it taste good? Right, so if they're saying low sodium, they're probably adding more sugar to it, more fat to it. Like they gotta still make it have that mouth taste where you're like, oh, this is so good, because they want you to come back. They want you to buy that product again. So looking at the nutrition facts label, the low sodium one is 55 milligrams. The original is 150 milligrams. Great, it's low sodium. That's awesome. If you are someone that struggles with high blood pressure, with kidney disease, where you have to watch for those things, that's awesome. But then here it says 2 grams of sugar on the low sodium, whereas the original has 1 gram. Okay, so things to be aware of. They often add other stuff in order to make it taste good. And a study has shown that people, when they see the low sodium, they're like, okay, yeah, I can eat more of it then. Okay? Eat the same amount of a low sodium product as you would an original product. Okay? Be consistent. If you expect too much, you're going to give up way too soon, and that's going to be the end of it. So be consistent, have realistic goals, and just be patient. And as I said, have realistic goals. So a lot of the time they're unrealistic and they're reactionary. So you'll have some pizza one night and you're like, oh, I'm never going to eat pizza again. Or you'll drink, I don't know, a sweet drink and you're like, oh, I'm never going to eat sugar again. So I can't answer that question because it is very one-on-one. And as I said, there was 2 photos that were there that I could have gone into more detail with. There's a lot of factors which influence your weight loss. But again, to wrap it up, it's the general photo of your diet. So what are you eating overall? How can you include more fiber? Cut down on the saturated fats, the trans fats, the sugar, but also just including things that are beneficial for your body. So that's things like the fiber, the healthy fats. So there's really a lot of things. It's hard to just give you like a general thing, but I'm happy to speak one-on-one if you'd like. Okay, there it is. Work with a trusted and regulated health professional. So stay away from those nutritionists. Okay, so I'm going to butcher the name because I can never say it properly. Hippocrates. Okay, he said, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. Okay, so just reflect on that. Those food substitutes, those cauliflower rice, the zucchini noodles, I am not a fan of those because those, again, are saying that normal rice is not good for you. It's saying that normal pasta is not good for you. So, again, if you want to have those, sure, by all means, but not a fan. Your weight is not a measure of your overall health. Okay, you can be the skinniest person and you're not healthy. Okay, you can be overweight, but you could be completely healthy. Okay, so there's more that goes into it than just your weight. So this is where my philosophy comes into place. So you see a lot of lemon and yellow on my branding, and that has to do with the fact that when you just squeeze a little bit of lemon on your food, it really goes a long way. Same thing with when I work one-on-one with clients. Those small changes that you make to your diet and your lifestyle, they really go a long way. So I've seen a lot of clients that have positive outcomes and success because they make those little changes. They're consistent. We work together, we follow up, and they are very happy with their outcomes. So like a lemon, a little bit goes a long way. Okay? Focus on your achievements, your improvements, rather than your failure. And as Matthew 6:20, this is my favorite verse in the Bible, look at the birds of the air, for they neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, yet your heavenly Father feeds them. So at the end of the day, eat what you want, enjoy. Our Father is always taking care of us. He takes care of the birds, he's always going to take care of us. Okay? So that's the end of it. So I'm going to bring something around. You can... Maybe. Yeah, I don't know if there's enough. Anyways, so she's going to cut it up a little bit more. I'll just tell you what it is, and then we'll take questions. So it's a brownie. Okay, so I kept referring to brownies for a reason, and that was I kept saying, oh, they're less nutritious. Okay, so there is an ingredient in those brownies. I don't want anyone to say anything yet. Try them first, and when you've had a bite, then let me know what the secret ingredient is, and nobody say anything yet. Okay? All right, we'll take questions. Okay, so the first question was on intermittent fasting. So that one is kind of similar to calorie restrictions. Oh, yes, okay. So intermittent fasting is when, so it can either be 12 hours per day or it can be 16 hours that you're fasting. So you're not eating or drinking anything. There are some fasts that allow coffee or tea or water, but for the most part, you're fasting for the majority of the day. So those can be like the 12-hour fast or it can be 16-hour. There's also times throughout the week where you're fasting the entire day. So that's what intermittent fasting is. My view on that is it's more of a calorie restriction. So it's similar to it because you're pretty much restricting yourself from having anything throughout the day. And in the long term, there has been some outcomes associated with it, but it's pretty much the same outcomes of you restricting yourself from eating to begin with. And some people will say, well, it improved my cholesterol, improved my blood sugars. okay, it probably did that because you're skipping out on breakfast, you're skipping out on lunch, you're skipping out on whatever it is throughout the day. So personally, I'm not really a fan. It still goes back to all of those fad diets. You're restricting yourselves from something. So I don't think it's the most beneficial, but again, suit yourself. And then the second question was on Splenda. So it is a sweetener. Health Canada has actually approved a certain amount of sweeteners that are to be used in a safe amount. So a packet of Splenda is completely safe. Someone once said to me, because I'm quite a fan of Diet Coke, not because of anything, I just like the taste. And someone said to me before, well, there's so much sweetener in that. So there's aspartame in Diet Coke. But in order for me to hit the threshold of having too much of that sweetener, it would have to be like me consuming 20 cans of a Diet Coke per day. So a packet or two of Splenda is completely fine. Yeah, it's your choice. If you're diabetic and you're watching your blood sugars from going too high and you want to have Splenda in your coffee, that's fine. Yeah, you can also have sugar. So the question or the statement was, in North Korea, they've implemented something where you start paying for food leftovers or whatever gets thrown out, which sometimes happens here at sushi places. So if I understand correctly, you're asking, is it the government that regulates that, or is it the businesses themselves, or what would be better? So primarily, I think it will come from the food service providers themselves. The government may come into play with some sort of an act or regulation stating something about the public health, but at the end of the day, it's those food service providers that are profiting off of you and me and what we buy. So it doesn't seem logical for me for the government to say something about, well, you guys got to start taxing or charging people on whatever food they leave behind. I don't see it in the foreseeable future, but I would see it probably more so with food service providers. Again, I think it's going to be coming from the food service level. I don't think it's going to go up to federal or government as of in general, but I don't know. We'll see. I can't comment. Yeah.
Okay. Can you maybe talk about how this gluten fad started? I know everyone knows about celiac disease, but why is everyone under the sun scared of gluten?
So the question was about the gluten, like the gluten-free diet and gluten in general. So again, it goes with the fact of gluten is found in a lot of carbohydrates. So people are like, well, if I cut out carbohydrates, then it's going to make me feel better digestive-wise. So they start to say, well, I have a gluten sensitivity, or I have, or the... It stems back to that. So they'll say, well, I've cut out carbs, I feel less bloated, so I'm gonna follow this gluten-free kind of diet. And there's claims that it makes you feel better. And again, with everything, there's claims that it's just gonna cure your everything. But if you are not celiac and you do not need to be following a gluten-free diet, or if you are not gluten sensitive, there's really what's the point? You're cutting out all those things. You look confused.
Okay. So this is more of a comment. So I've tried like a bunch of fad diets, and the one thing I realized, low carbs. So I did that for a bit. I crashed so hard. I'm talking about like one day I slept for 16 hours straight, and at work, there was like a black fog in my head. I just couldn't think, and like nothing was firing. Like it just felt like 2 + 2 does not equal 4 anymore. It just doesn't. Nothing's actually working. Which honestly, if anyone knows me, my brain does not work in most cases. This is worse so. And so there was that. And so I actually realized this when I'm whatever, like when I do calorie restrictions or whatever, just for fun. They it was funny. Like I actually had to up the carbs. So that was also like I didn't know this at all that but they actually told me to cut down my fat and up the carbs, and which is very weird. I'm like, oh, you're supposed to be the other way around. So that was one thing I learned as well. And I found the best diet A is a lifestyle, and B no processed food. So if you just limit your processed food, not cut it out, it's I think the most healthiest diet at least I found.
Yep, so that goes along with the 80-20 approach as well. So thank you. And that fogginess that you're experiencing is probably like, I wouldn't say the keto flu, but it's like going on the path of that. So when people go through the keto diet, there's something called the keto flu in the first couple of days as their body is transitioning over from what they're using as their energy source, and they start feeling really tired, really foggy, really just everything that John said.
What are your thoughts on milk? Not because of it being nutritious. Yeah, go ahead.
So people, this is a really common question. So people often say, well, I'm not gonna have milk because there's antibiotics, there's hormones, and okay. So one, in Canada, all of the cows, like there's no antibiotics given to them. So that is not even allowed in Canada. Two, there's no antibiotics, there's no hormones. If a cow in the food supply chain is sick for some reason and they gotta give the poor thing antibiotics, they take them out of the food supply chain. So we do not get milk from those cows that are sick, and certainly there's no antibiotics or hormones that are added. So this is why when the government allowed American milk to come into our food supply, this is why I keep saying drink Canadian milk. Because in the States, they don't have regulations like that. So their cows can have hormones, they can have antibiotics. I'm pretty sure they give them. So that's kind of like the biggest thing that you just want to kind of steer clear of. You're agreeing with me. So look for on it. So on the bag or whatever, it'll say Canadian dairy farmers. There's like a little stamp on it, and it'll say Canadian dairy farmers. Yep. It is recalled. Correct. Yep, we returned ours. If you buy milk from the brand Seal Test, there is a recall, so check your expiration dates. If it's before February 8th, return that thing, throw it out, whatever. It has sanitizer in it. Yeah. So milk can be part of a balanced diet. You get a lot of nutrition from it. So you get the calcium, you get the carbohydrates, you get those natural sugars from them. And it helps you with meeting your daily calcium intake. So as I said, our milk does not contain those antibiotics and the hormones that everyone is so afraid of. So I definitely think that it can be included as part of your diet. It provides you with protein. So a lot of the times when I hear someone saying, well, I'm going to have a plant-based alternative, which is okay. It's good for the environment. Good on you. But you got to compare them. So are you getting the same amount of calcium? Are you getting the same amount of protein? Are you getting those nutrients between the two of them? Okay, so those are just something to keep in mind. And when you are looking for a plant-based alternative, soy milk is the one that's closest to cow's milk in terms of protein content. Almond milk does not rank up to the soy milk or the cow's milk, just because of, again, protein content that's in it. I feel like the more we talk, the more we get things that spark. So there has been some concern that having soy products for women or for females in general increases their risk of cancer or just exacerbates it. The research is inconclusive. So right now the research does not state that, okay, you got to stay away from those soy products. You can actually enjoy them. It kind of promotes more of the plant-based approach. So you can include them. There's nothing that says they're harmful for you. So at this time, we're not recommending against it. So for example, tofu, I eat it all the time. Okay, so you can include it. So as you age, your body's ability to produce collagen and elastin, which are the proteins in your skin, decreases. So a lot of people are, in your hair. So they help with your hair growth, your nail growth, and your skin regeneration. So as you age, those start to decrease in your body. So a lot of people include them through other sources. If you're having a well-balanced diet overall, you're eating from a variety of foods, you're likely getting enough collagen. For the most part, though, it comes from a lot of animal products. But there are things that you could get it from otherwise. So it's not really something that people eat. Algae, seaweed, those are things that would include it. Not really in significant amounts, but it is something that people consider as they age and get older to include like a powder or something. But again, you got to be careful. So it's a funny story because my parents were actually just recently buying something like this, and the supplements that they bought, they had to have 3 tablets of it twice a day, and that wasn't even meeting like the recommendation of how much they should have. So don't waste your money and just buy something because it says collagen and has all those claims on it. I would say do your research or ask someone. From animal products. So things like, a lot of people are drinking things like a bone broth. So they're actually getting like animal, I don't even know what they're called. They're ligaments or whatever. Yeah, they're marrow. Yeah, and they're like boiling it and they're drinking that to get the collagen from it. But you can also get it from like the legumes and like beef, fish, things like that as well, because they're like eating sources that the collagen is in. Okay. How much time do I have?
Okay. Remember your 80-20 approach?
Yes.
What's that based? Like.
So officially, this is the last question.
This is the last question.
Yes. Okay. So. Is it concrete? 20. So. 80% calories. So 80% of your calories, or is it like 80% of the time, or what?
So it's 80% of the time. So 80% of the time you're having those whole foods, those fruits, those vegetables, those whole grains, the legumes. 20% of the time you're having those treats. I wouldn't even call them treats, but just the foods that you enjoy for your own comfort and desire. So that brings us to the discussion. What was in those brownies? I'm not looking at you. Because you answer everything. Yeah. Some kind of bean. Anybody know what kind of bean? Red bean. Who said black bean? Correct. Could you taste it? Not at all. Not really. The texture was different? Could you like taste the skin? Yeah, it's very moist. Yes. Okay, so that goes to show that you can include stuff in your foods and in your baking. Half the time people don't even know that they're in the foods, and it makes it more nutritious. Okay? I did make them. Yes, yeah. Right before I came here. Good. I can share it with you. Yeah. Okay? Good? Oh, we'll talk after.
I'm sorry, I love you. But yes, if Christine's okay with it, if she's okay lingering for a few minutes, half an hour, maybe about two, I think by the sounds of it, I'm sure she'll be happy to have this discussion offline. Thank you for coming out. That was a very informative presentation. I definitely didn't know how to read the nutrition facts. I will try to make more of an effort doing that. And just an announcement for next week, we're wrapping up the 2020 Crush Your Goals series. Next week with financial goals, that's going to be run by Ihab Nicola. So come with your financial questions and think money. There is a lot of both nutritious and non-nutritious food out there that needs to be consumed, so please try to eat after. Otherwise, let's stand up for prayer. And if you can help with the tables and chairs, that'd be great.
Sure. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, one God, amen. We thank you very much, Heavenly Father, for this wonderful talk today. And we thank Christine for her time and for her knowledge that she shared with us. And we just pray, God, that for 2020, that we're all more conscientious and we just make food choices more purposefully. We pray for healthier bodies this year and just being more aware of what we eat. And we ask you, God, to hear us as we pray together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. In Christ Jesus our Lord, for thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.